we are officially halfway through 2024, and the big question is whether President Joe Biden will be the Democratic nominee by the end of this week. We know the media revolt against him is well underway. Paper after paper suddenly reporting on the story that has been obvious to just about anyone with eyes and ears for months, and let's be honest, years now. Joe Biden is struggling, and his age has caught up with him. It's not a pleasant story to report on. No one's enjoying watching this, but we've been forced to by Jill Biden and the cabal around him and by the candidate himself. We on this show reported on Joe Biden's obviously faltering mental cognition more than 2 years ago. That was episode 339. We talked about it on the show before we did it, saying, look, it feels kind of mean. It feels a little rude, but it's a story. And not a lot of people were doing it back then. But that was at a time when the Democrats could still have realistically held a competitive primary. Others should have been honest about what we were all seeing. People with influence among the far left in particular, but they wouldn't. They were running cover for the guy they thought could beat the modern day Hitler, Donald Trump. So many in the larger media and members of the president's staff and family have been lying to you for a very long time and asking you not to believe your lying eyes. Now, however, in the wake of Mr. Biden's disastrous debate performance, the media elite have finally woken up, and they are in full-on panic mode as they attempt to push out this president. Here's just a small sampling from over the past 2 days. From the New York Times, the headline, "To serve his country, President Biden should leave the race." The editorial board writing in part, "As it stands, the president is engaged in a reckless gamble." The Atlanta Journal-Constitution writing, "It's time for Biden to pass the torch." Let's not forget, Georgia has become a critical swing state. From the New Yorker, "For the president to insist on remaining the Democratic candidate would be an act not only of self-delusion, but of national endangerment." Editor David Remnick evoking Mark Twain's quote, "It is sad to go to pieces like this, but we all have to do it." Speaking of aging. Writing, quote, "On Thursday night, it was Joe Biden's turn. But unlike the rest of us, he went to pieces on CNN in front of tens of millions of his compatriots." Both the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal editorial boards did not go that far, but said bowing out should be seriously considered by the president, something Van Jones echoed on CNN moments after the debate. Maureen Dowd and Tom Friedman at the New York Times. We know that Mr. Biden himself reads Maureen Dowd religiously. We believe her column was the reason he finally acknowledged his 7th grandchild, Navy Biden. Both Dowd and Tom Friedman at the Times calling for Mr. Biden to step aside. Dowd in acerbic terms, which I will quote in more full terms in a moment. Their colleague, Ezra Klein, who's been calling for an open convention since February, took a victory lap on his podcast and spared no one around the president. Mr. Biden's favorite TV show host, Joe Scarborough, said it was time for the president to consider leaving this race to help his party defeat Donald Trump. And this didn't just come from America. Britain's largest culture or current affairs magazine, The Economist, called on President Biden to step aside. And yet there's always the one. The Philadelphia Inquirer's editorial board taking a different tact, instead calling on Trump to leave the race, saying, quote, "Biden had a horrible night Thursday, but the debate about the debate is misplaced. The only person who should withdraw from the race is Trump." It's not just the media, though the media matters, especially in Democrat circles. Democrat donors, too, are unhappy. And a call between the Biden campaign and a large group of them is scheduled for this evening. Money talks. We're also hearing reports of some delegates already pledged to Joe Biden in a major freakout, saying, how on earth am I going to vote for this guy? Chris Cillizza had a piece on this. How am I going to actually go in there and do what I've been pledged to do when I understand this guy cannot be the president for 4 more years? Let me tell you a story about a guy named Leo Grillo. Leo was on a road trip and came across a Doberman. This dog was severely underweight and clearly in trouble. Well, Leo rescued the dog and named him Delta. But sadly, Delta was just one of many animals that needed help. And this inspired Leo to start Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, and horses from the wilderness, and they provide their animals with shelter, love, safety, a home. April marked 45 years since Leo rescued Delta, and Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions. If you want caring for these animals to be part of your legacy, speak with your estate planner, because there are tax benefits too. You can grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and to speak with your advisor too. We call dogs a man's best friend for a reason. You can help those who need it most. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. deltarescue.org. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.